right, Dave Abbott, our chief engineer. What are we looking at right here?
This is the main transmitter for the WLW air signal. This is what is currently on the air and producing the signal that everyone's hearing. We have the door open a little bit for just to show you guys the amplifiers inside and to allow some little bit additional cooling.
We feel warm air coming off of this. What's happening in there?
Well, that's where all the power is being multiplied in order to reach the 50 kilowatts that we're allowed to broadcast.
50,000 watts,
yes,
right?
Correct.
Okay, you pull one of those out of there, it'll still work. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
pull 10 of them out of there, would the power drop?
Yes, it would.
Significantly.
Correct.
All right, if this fails, what's the backup?
That would be the DX50 here.
The DX50.
It is another Harris transmitter. It was the predecessor of the 3DX, which was the main. But this is our backup transmitter if the main has problems, or if we have problems at the main tower, we can switch to this transmitter. And currently this transmitter is feeding our aux tower, which is the smaller tower. If you're passing by the site, you can see, of course, the large tower, and then the smaller tower is the backup.
So you got that big diamond-shaped tower that's huge. The one we just looked at feeds that. This is feeding a mini tower as a backup. So
correct.
If anything happens. Okay, if this all fails,
we have
this
relay here that still functions.
Here, let's move over here closer. We can.
This is the Continental analog transmitter. It was on the air for many, many years. We actually have all of the transmitters that have been on the air here at WLW are still in the building. This is one of them. The last time this was on the air was, it went on the air for about 2 or 3 hours for Y2K, because we were afraid that some of the parts in the newer transmitters would react weird, because no one really knew what to expect. And so we actually had it on the air as a backup for the Y2K scare.
It's still ready to go.
Yeah.
It still works because you tested it recently.
Yeah. Paul Jellison, one of the other engineers, had it up and running, going into a dummy load probably about a month ago.
Dave, what is this?
That is an insulator that used to be on the guy wires of the wires that were holding the tower up for most of its life. That was one of the originals. We had them replaced, I think it's been about 10 to 12 years ago. If people were driving by and they saw a bunch of folks hanging off the tower, they were replacing all the guy wires and the insulators.
Now, Dave, what is this big tube?
Yeah, that's one of the tubes that used to be in the 500 kilowatt transmitter. We will see that here in just a bit, but they've had one here on display for people that come through and want to see what's the whole tube look like, because you can't really see the whole thing when it's in the circuit. We've got this stand, and this is one of the original tubes.
This is, at one time, this was 500,000 watts of power that was broadcasting across the nation, and that's why we were called the Nation Station. But is there any purpose for this right now, other than, it's a piece of history?
It's a piece of history. That's pretty much it. There is no way it could ever function again with the state that it's in. All of the plumbing, because this was water cooled. The valves that you see there were used to change as far as the temperature to cool the components inside. So we used to have a cooling pond out front that has since been removed, but the water would recycle from inside here, come out hot, come out through things that kind of look like a sprinkler head, and it would cool the air would cool the water, and then the water would come, the cooler water would be sucked back through to once again cool the transmitter. All of that is gone, so there is no way that this could ever run again.
Is this your first time here seeing this?
Yeah.
What are your impressions?
It's unbelievable just how big this thing is. When you compare the one that's running the station now to what they had to do to put 500,000 watts up.
This is the owner's manual for the 500,000 watt transmitter.
Correct. Pictures of it.
That's the building we're in right now. All right, we're now in the back of the 500,000 watt power source. And what are these, old logs?
Yep. You can see this one is dated 10/27 of 41.
1941.
Whoa. I wonder why they're here. What did they do? Just abandon it? Gotta go? Leave it?
Well, back then you used to just you had to keep all of your logs for a certain amount of time, and they probably just, for the most part, just stopped getting rid of them and just started stacking them because there's so much room here. Yeah. That's where I was saying that we saw.
These are just the guts of the whole.
Yeah, that used to be more of where a lot of the audio stuff was. That's why it's got racks and other things like that. This is all part of the tuning.
What are these coils? This is part of the cooling system?
Or no, this was mostly part of the tuning for the transmitter, or for the signal leaving for the tower.
So those go right to the tower?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
They go down, and then there's another combiner down there that would have attached to the tower at that point. There's some of it still down there as far as the physical, but the actual linkage between them is no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
The power's coming in. These were like substations that were outside.
Oh yeah, look at the
Yeah.
insulators on the top of that.
Oh wow, I didn't ever even seen this. That old radio.
Old radio.
Powell Crosley.
What have you got there?
I guess that just ensured the station was on the air.
Oh, here you go. You want the billing from WLW in 1979?
Yep. Let's look it over. Take it with you.
They only played 4 commercials an hour? Wow. How things have changed.
$500,000.
Now, what do we have here?
This is the switching matrix for the transmitters and the towers. So if we hit a button in the other room to switch a transmitter to a certain tower, these devices will switch their position in order to make that happen.
You know, Dave, I'm leaning into this and I'm hearing the station, but I don't see any speakers. What is going on here?
That's just the signal being picked up by the devices that are inside the cabinet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now we're in the basement. What are we looking at? Do you actually use this area?
No, not anymore. This used to be the workshop for everything that was done here at the transmitter plant. A lot of the parts they would actually make by hand. And so some of the devices that they used to make those parts way back when are still here.
What do you got in there, Combsy?
Every washer, clip, brace you could ever imagine. Weighs a ton.
In the basement still, and is this an oil tank?
It's an old audio transformer that was used with a 500 kilowatt transmitter. There's many pictures of Powell standing in front of this because of the size of it. And I'll provide you with one of those pictures. This is where the current generators for WLW are located. We have two of them. Both of them are provided by FEMA because of the strength of the signal and how much information we get out. So we actually have two generators here.
So this is all backup for if the power goes out?
Correct. This was the original bomb shelter,
Oh, wow.
emergency studio. It's no longer used. They built the pods for us, but that's why they have, you have your toilet in case you're in here for many, many days.
Oh, wow.
Water barrels, they've got ready to eat meals and a lot of those tubs.
And then, so this is actually a studio.
Yeah. Yeah, we had it all ready to go, even with a delay, because, you know, we don't want to get fined if we're in a state of emergency and someone says a bad word.
Which probably pretty likely.
That panel there would show you the state of the generators.
That's cool.
Think you're not in an emergency?
If we had to get in there to save the day, that might take a minute.
Now, what are these? These are provided by FEMA, Federal Emergency Management. For what purpose?
Mostly to make sure that WLW stays on the air during any type of national emergency or catastrophe. These two units, or this one unit over here, is the actual broadcast pod. This one has the generator and air purifying system in it. So this is mostly mechanical on this one side, and the other side is for studio.
Hermetically sealed.
Yeah, you will hear the noise.
Wow. Airport toilet and bed.
So this replaced the small room that we saw before with the console.
Well, this is meant for a person to be on the air 24 hours a day, living here, even if there is
With
something.
food and water and everything across the top.
If we were to close the door, your cell phone would stop working.
The actual radio signal goes out.
So all the programming, everything that's coming from the studios is coming into this building here and then coming out through these lines underground and heading right over here to the big tower.
Yeah, that's the transmission line that comes from the switcher that we saw that is being fed by the transmitters. Those are the actual lines that are buried under the ground going to the tower.
All right, we're walking up to the base of this huge tower. I hear a buzzing sound over here, Dave.
It's mostly from the lighting, just a transformer, but these are the other ends of the lines we saw coming out of the building.
These go right into the tower, and this is what is sent out to our listeners. That's not a speaker.
No, it's just coming off of the coil.
That's a vibration.
The resonance from the signal creating the sound that we hear through those coils.
All right, so this is the base of an approximately 800-foot tower resting right here on this foundation, the whole thing.
Correct. On that ceramic insulator.
Okay, we're at the base of this huge 800-foot tower, and this is what it rests on right here, all of that weight.